Welcome to the Shadowverse. There are dark things here. Hungry things. Even I don't dare to stay too long. But I hope you like it. Because you are never leaving.
I like the old Darkwing better.
I'm the hero here! I'm saving the world from Omni-Man's son!
Hey, don't call me that.
I'm Stephanie Williams, and welcome to Prime Video Recaps. Today, we're recapping the beloved Prime Video original, Invincible. We'll review Season 2 to help you catch up before the highly anticipated Season 3 premieres on February 6th. Invincible follows the journey of Mark Grayson, a young hero grappling with an intergalactic legacy that's more complicated than ever. While he once proudly carried the mantle of being Omni-Man's son, Mark now stands alone after the life-altering revelation of his father's true mission and their devastating battle that nearly cost him everything. Armed with his powers and haunted by his father's betrayal, Mark faces new threats to Earth while trying to forge his own path as a hero. Invincible remains a masterful blend of superhuman spectacle, emotional depth, and unflinching intensity. But don't take my word for it. Let's dive into the Season 2 recap to see how Mark's story and the stories of his supporting cast unfold after his father's departure. A lesson for your next life. Season 2, Episode 1 introduces us to the existence of different dimensions. In the universe that opens the episode, Invincible teams up with his father, Omni-Man, to prepare Earth for a Viltrumite takeover. This alternate timeline also introduces a new character named Angstrom Levy. Angstrom is a member of the resistance against Omni-Man and Invincible in this universe. Before Invincible and Omni-Man kill him alongside other resistant members like Robot or paralyzes him like Adam Eve, he pulls himself into a portal from another universe. When the episode finally returns to the main universe, in which Invincible rejects his father's invitation to join the Viltrum Empire, we find that Cecil has resurrected Immortal and made him the leader of the Guardians of the Globe. This is a result of Rudy, aka Robot, not being an effective leader. Another new superhero named Bulletproof introduces himself while wearing one of the first suits that Invincible tried on in Season 1. Meanwhile, in the main universe, Mark and his mother Debbie deal with the aftermath of Nolan's betrayal. The Mauler twins escape from prison yet again, but this time with the help of Angstrom. He then enlists the twins' help in building a memory transfer device that will enable him to share memories with different versions of himself across other realities. Cecil sends Invincible to confront the Mauler twins, which leads to a catastrophic explosion that leaves one of the surviving twins severely injured and Angstrom mutated. Both vow to get the revenge against Invincible. In about 6 hours, I lose my virginity to a fish. In Episode 2, Mark defeats Doc Seismic again and then attends his high school graduation right after. Mark continues carrying out his duties as Invincible with the motivation to prove he is nothing like his dad. Rexplode discovers Immortal and Duplicate are dating. Invincible encounters and defeats the new Darkwing. Debbie confronts Cecil, accusing him of taking advantage of Mark's eagerness to prove he is nothing like his father. While there, she sees Donald Ferguson, who died in Season 1 but is somehow alive and seemingly unaware that anything ever happened to him. Adam Eve argues with her father, who believes she is irresponsibly using her powers after she fixed an apartment building and built a new playground in Chicago. Cecil sends Invincible to Atlantis to appease the Atlanteans, who are still upset about what happened to their king, Aquarius, one of the slain members of the original Guardians of the Globe. Invincible is forced into a trial by combat. He battles a kaiju named the Death Dweller and saves the Atlanteans after it turns its attention on them and starts attacking them. The stowaway Martian from Season 1, Episode 4 is reintroduced as a new member of the Guardians who goes by Shapesmith. The Lizard League gets a new leader after King Lizard murders the Supreme Lizard. And now in an alternate universe, the now mutated and vengeful Angstrom confronts another captive evil Invincible. Angstrom asks this Invincible questions to learn how to defeat him. He plans on using that knowledge with the intent to defeat the Invincible in the main universe. This missive, this machination. In Episode 3, we are back in the main universe. Mark starts college and he and Amber take their relationship to another level. While they're busy, we catch up with Alan the alien, who finally returns to the coalition of planets to share what he learned from Invincible. We also get Alan's backstory, which includes details about the attack on his homeworld, Unipa, by the Viltrumites, and as a result, his species joining the coalition to help stop the Viltrum Empire. Alan, bred to be the strongest of his species, evaluated other planets for his beings powerful enough to challenge the Viltrumites. The coalition leader, Thetis, tasked Alan with finding the mole he believes is hiding within the coalition. The coalition believes that there is a mole within their ranks, but then shortly after, in an unrelated incident, Alan is attacked by 3 Viltrumites, leaving him nearly dead. What remains of Alan's body is placed in a recovery machine, which Thetis sabotages for unknown reasons. Back on Earth, Debbie finally attends a meeting for individuals dealing with losing their superhero spouses. A shape-shifting thraxan, an insect-like species, tells Mark his people are in danger, and Mark travels to Thraxa against Cecil's orders, and once on Thraxa, he is unexpectedly reunited with his father, now a ruler of the Thraxans. It's been a while. Episode 4 explores what Nolan, aka Omni-Man, has been up to since leaving Earth. While soul-searching and flying aimlessly around the cosmos, Omni-Man saves a spacecraft from getting sucked into a black hole. He returns the spacecraft passengers to their world, Thraxa, and they grant him sanctuary and anoint him as their new ruler because he is the oldest and Thraxans only live for 9 months. Back in the present, Nolan reveals to a shocked and angered Mark that he sent for him because he needs his help protecting the Thraxans against the Viltrumites. After Nolan convinces Mark to stay, he drops another whopper of a reveal on him by introducing Mark to his new Thraxan wife and son. Back on Earth, Debbie is deeply depressed due to her grief about everything that went down with Omni-Man, but later finds resolve through a heart-to-heart with Art. Donald discovers a small crater left by the house that exploded in Season 1, Episode 7, right after Omni-Man killed him and the GDA soldiers. He later finds out he did die, or at least the original version of him did. We see that Adam Eve no longer lives in her treehouse but in the old Teen Team headquarters. Mark ultimately agrees to help his father defend Thraxa just as 3 Viltrum warriors arrive. Invincible and Omni-Man take on the Viltrum warriors but eventually are defeated by one named Lucan. After he suffered severe injuries, Omni-Man is taken captive, and a Viltrumite named General Krieg assigns Invincible an impossible task to prepare Earth for a takeover by the Viltrum Empire. Episode 4 ends with the lone Mauler twin cloning himself, and then the new clone kills him. This must come as a shock. Episode 5 opens with Mark surveying the devastation of the Thraxan city before passing out from his injuries. Andressa and Mark's half-brother survive the devastation. Mark assists in rebuilding the city, but Andressa, now aging rapidly, asks Mark to take his young brother back to Earth. On Earth, and 2 months after his departure, Mark comes home with his baby brother. Debbie decides to help care for the infant so that Mark can continue attending college. Donald confronts Cecil about his transformation into a cyborg. Cecil admits that Donald decided this would be his fate long ago. Mark resumes college life but is soon confronted by an angry Cecil. During Mark's absence, the Guardians nearly escape defeat. Cecil also reveals his intentions to take Mark's brother into custody, citing the potential risks. Mark tries to reconnect with Amber, catching up after his time away. Amber shares with him that her grandfather passed away while he was gone, and Mark feels awful that he wasn't there for her in her time of need. Cecil informs the Guardians about an impending Martian threat. They also learn that Shapesmith is secretly a Martian. Shapesmith left the human astronaut to secure his passage to Earth. With this revelation, the Guardians realize that the Sequids, parasitic alien creatures, are on their way to invade Earth. Eve deals with guilt after unintentionally injuring civilians. Rex visits her, offering reassurance and requesting her assistance with the Sequid threat. Meanwhile, Cecil also enlists Mark's help. The Guardians split up, with some heading to space to deal with the impending trouble, while Rex, Duplicate, and Shrinking Ray stay behind. King Lizard launches a surprise attack on the military base. The Martians destroy the space shuttle, but Adam Eve manages to phase the crew into the Martian ship for safety. Rex, Duplicate, and Shrinking Ray face off against King Lizard and his forces. King Lizard's henchmen gruesomely kill Ray and Kate. Rex succeeds in eliminating them, but he is left defenseless as King Lizard holds a gun to his head. Alan the alien regains consciousness after surviving his battle against the Viltrumite. Stronger than ever, Alan learns that Thetis is the sole Viltrumite who rebelled against the Empire and remained alive. Thetis entrusts Alan with a critical mission, recruiting Invincible to their cause. It's not that simple. Episode 6 picks up with Rex at King Lizard's mercy, kneeling helplessly. King Lizard executes Rex with a gunshot, but Rex miraculously survives. He takes out King Lizard using the stump of his severed arm. Shrinking Ray also narrowly escapes death. Meanwhile, back in space, Rudy diligently works to repair a device capable of defeating the Sequids while Eve tries to hold them off. They get the device to Mark, who detonates it near the Sequid-controlled astronaut, successfully neutralizing the Sequid threat. The Martians express their gratitude but demand custody of Shapesmith, intending to sentence him to death. The Guardians refuse and then flee with the astronaut. The Martians chase after them, which prompts Mark to perform an impressive feat of strength and flight in space to ensure everyone escapes safely, which leads to Immortal begrudgingly acknowledging Mark's effort. Back on Earth, Debbie once again rejects Cecil's assistance with Nolan's son, whom she eventually names Oliver. The Guardians mourn Kate's death, and Immortal takes her death the hardest. Rex and Ray are barely hanging on after suffering their severe injuries. The Guardians hold a funeral for Kate, and Immortal gives a touching eulogy. Afterward, he shares with Black Samson how much he loves Kate and how her death has left him feeling down and out. Mark reconnects with Amber, though a growing emotional distance is evident between them. Meanwhile, William's boyfriend Rick returns, unsettling Donald as he wrestles with his reconstructed identity. Donald consents that he and Rick share a similar plight. Debbie decides to hire a nanny to help with Oliver. Cecil offers Eve a position on the Guardians to fill Kate's spot, but she respectfully declines. Amber visits Eve to discuss her relationship challenges. Separately, Mark confides in Art about his difficulties with Amber. These conversations overlap as both characters reflect on their struggles. Ultimately, though, both Art and Eve tell Amber and Mark they should be talking to one another instead. Art then shares Nolan's old sci-fi novels with Mark. Mark realizes the book recounts Nolan's own life and offers critical insights on how to defeat the Viltrumites. Cecil confronts Immortal about his behavior since Kate's death. Immortal brushes him off and flies away after Cecil is alerted about a possible incoming threat headed to Earth. The threat in question ends up being Alan the alien, who is not a threat, but Immortal is too angry to listen to Alan, but Invincible arrives just in time. A short while later, Alan is back with Mark in his dorm. Alan tells Mark about Thetis' request for Mark to join the fight against the Viltrumites. Mark gives Alan his father's novels and tells him they have information that can be used to defeat the Viltrumites. Mark, burdened by the guilt over Amber's feelings of loneliness, reluctantly decides to stay on Earth rather than leave with Alan. In space, Nolan resists the Viltrumite general's persistent attempts to persuade him to join the Empire. Elsewhere and back on Earth, the once corrupt astronaut returns to his apartment, where he unknowingly harbors a Sequid. The alien parasite reclaims control of its host. Angstrom Levy resumes his multi-dimensional journey before finally returning to the main dimension. I'm not going anywhere. Episode 7 begins with Mark and Amber attending a superhero convention in an attempt to work on their relationship by doing things together again. Mark feels unsettled seeing attendees dressed as him. Mark and Amber's date is cut short after Adam Eve contacts Mark to assist Rex in battling a villain named Octoboss. Rex has new upgrades but returns to the battlefield prematurely. Mark arrives just in time to turn the tide. Tension between Robot and Monster Girl continues to escalate. The rest of the team seems burdened with personal and collective challenges. Immortal is forced to go on a sabbatical. Cecil reveals to Donald a series of disturbing recordings, footage of Donald dying repeatedly. This revelation is compounded by the fact that Donald willingly erased his own memories to avoid reliving the trauma, highlighting the lengths he has gone to serve the greater good. Paul, a co-worker of Debbie, asks her out on a date, and she agrees. Oliver demonstrates remarkable growth, both physically and intellectually. Rick struggles with severe emotional distress stemming from his traumatic experience with Sinclair, feeling as though he has lost a part of himself. Standing on the brink of suicide, Rick is comforted by Donald, who delivers an empathetic and moving speech about resilience and shared pain. This moment persuades Rick to step back from the ledge. Mark, ever determined to focus on his relationship, takes Amber on a date. However, their evening is interrupted by the arrival of Anissa, a Viltrumite with a deadly warning. She threatens Amber while stating that the Viltrumite Empire's domination could ultimately benefit humanity by preventing large catastrophes. Cecil alerts Mark that a cruise ship is somewhere in the ocean that needs to be saved from a giant sea monster. Cecil suggests to Mark that he convinces Anissa to go with him to help if the Viltrumite's true intentions are to help mankind. Anissa defeats the monster, however, their shaky alliance is short-lived as Mark refuses to yield to the Viltrumite. Anissa and Mark fight. Anissa ultimately overpowers Mark but chooses to spare his life. Mark deals with the emotional weight of his failing relationship with Amber and the realization that being with him is dangerous for her. Mark's musings are interrupted when Angstrom calls him using Debbie's phone. Angstrom reveals that he has both Debbie and Oliver and is holding them hostage. Anissa returns to her base and tells the general about Invincible's continued refusal to join the Empire. She is then sent out to deal with Alan the alien, who in a calculated move allows himself to be captured. I thought you were stronger. Episode 8, the season 2 finale, opens with Nolan. He is recovering from his injuries while destroying a group of aliens inside what looks like a training area. The Viltrumite general assesses Nolan's condition and deems him fit for execution. Back on Earth, Mark rushes home only to find the mutated Angstrom holding his mother Debbie by the throat. Angstrom, consumed by rage and blaming Mark for his disfigurement, threatens to kill her. He is furious that Mark doesn't even remember him. When Mark attacks, Angstrom counters by flinging him into alternate dimensions as a combat strategy. Angstrom's mind is flooded with traumatic flashbacks of the monstrous deeds that Mark has committed in other realities, further fueling his anger. As Debbie struggles to escape, Angstrom brutally injures her by snapping her arm. Mark is furious and engages Angstrom in a violent battle through several dimensions. Mark beats Angstrom to death and is left alone in an unknown dimension wasteland. Mark is overcome with regret and struggles to process his actions. Wandering aimlessly in the desert, he is left to deal with his guilt. Mark's solitude is interrupted by the arrival of an older version of the Guardians of the Globe emerging through a portal. They explain that Mark has been missing for 20 years in their timeline. A middle-aged Eve reveals her enduring love for him before sending him back through the portal just hours after his disappearance. Robot cautions Eve that this action might have disrupted the time stream. Back in his timeline, Mark rushes to the hospital to check on Debbie. Overcome with emotion, he breaks down in her arms. Cecil attempts to console Mark, assuring him that his actions against Angstrom were necessary, but Mark remains deeply traumatized by the violence he unleashed. Elsewhere, Rudy offers a heartfelt apology to Amanda, aka Monster Girl. She expresses her frustrations at being treated as broken and wants their conversations to move beyond her condition. They reach an understanding, deepening their connection. In a surprising twist, Kate is revealed to be alive. She reunites with Immortal in a secluded cabin, explaining that she kept a secret copy of herself hidden. Mark tells his mother he's quit college to focus on mastering his powers and emotions, and Debbie supports his decision. He then visits Eve, finding solace in her presence. Although he seems on the verge of confessing his feelings, he remains silent, finding comfort in simply sitting with her. The season finale ends with Omni-Man sharing with Alan the alien how remorseful he is for the harm he has caused in the name of Viltrum. Omni-Man also says that he misses his wife, Debbie. And there you have it, everything you need to know about Season 2 of Invincible. And don't forget, Season 3 will premiere on Prime Video on February 6th. Once again, my name is Stephanie Williams, and thank you for watching Prime Video Recaps.